Welcome to Sweet Spot. This is a podcast series by Honeycomb. Honeycomb is an 18-year-old tried, tested, and trusted Brandcom marketing communication agency based out of Bangalore, which played a large role in building a lot of brands around India. Myself, Vipin Nadikil. I have Mr. Nazarius Manoharan along with me today.
Hello.
Nazarius is better known as Naz. Naz is one of the finest marketing communications brains from Bangalore, and he has worked with a lot of big brands. Hi, Naz.
Hi, Vipin. Wonderful to be here with you. Looking forward to our chat.
Yes, Naz. In fact, I thought, unlike a very typical interview or a podcast, let's have a very casual conversation. We will pick some of the topics which are relevant to business houses on marketing and communication, and I would definitely like to hear your views on that. And I hope the topics that we pick will be relevant to a lot of the people out there. You being somebody in the industry for the last 20 plus years, maybe we will start with discussing how is building a brand different today from the day when you started?
It's interesting. Yeah, actually, it's been about 30 plus years. Yes, I'm straddling the completely old to the completely new, and I'm challenged to keep up. But yeah, in the past, let me just take you through a few things broadly. We got all our advertising from, let's say, the US, where the consumer growth was very high in the early 1900s. At that time, mass media was the only channels, which basically meant radio, television, outdoor, and print, which was predominant. Journalism was, booming. So these were the 4 or 5 main channels which advertisers like brands and products had. And so therefore, it was a little bit easy, even if you had a mediocre product, which means you don't have to be the best product, but if you had a good media budget, just the weightage of the media will carry you through to the customer, because as Marshall McLuhan said, the media became the message.
Oh.
The medium became the
Okay.
message. It really worked, and so it was not very fair to the consumers, because a mid-level product could even be sold very well. And that's when all these things evolved of brand, a single-minded idea, because it was convenient, in all the channels that you hear the same thing.
So you mean to say that a mass media or a powerful something like a print on a newspaper,
Yeah.
that becomes, that gives a distinct impact to the brand itself?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. So I was speaking about America, right? Exactly the same thing happened, much like the Mad Men, if
Okay.
you've seen the serial, that happened in America in the early 1900s. We started it around the 70s and 80s, and it was a great place to be in. Very glamorous and very, people love to work in advertising. It was the best job you could get, because it was free for all. There was no strict timing and stuff like that. Of course, there were crazy deadlines. But at that time, even in India, what did we have in the 80s? We had Doordarshan, right? And Chitrahar was the main program. Chitrahar was a Bollywood songs program. It was watched by almost everybody in the country. So if your ad came on Chitrahar, and I'll give you an example of Move, the pain reliever, India's largest selling joint pain reliever, we called it.
Oh.
When I was in Mudra and Ahmedabad, it was launched like that, just before me. If it came there, people thought, "Whoa, my God, it's it's a national brand." But actually, it wasn't. It was only available in Ahmedabad and Indore. And when the client, we advised the client to take it on national television, he got a shock, because it's everywhere it got known, and then they were desperately trying to distribute it everywhere. And within about 8 years, he became a huge national brand. Of course, he ended up selling it for 3,000 crores. He was just operating out of a garage. Yeah. So it's very same, whether it's Iodex, Amritanjan, Zandu Bomb, Tiger Bomb. this chap's market share was zero, right? He entered as joint pain reliever because all the other positioning was taken, what we call mind share. So he entered as joint pain and he called it India's largest selling joint pain reliever because he could say that. Nobody could dispute this. Of course, I was from J. Walter Thompson. It's a very famous something called the T plan, Thompson plan, was very famous, and it became, they were the first people to have strategy guys, which means a planner, what we called a planner. O&M didn't have that. So we had a guy called Sattar Khan. I'll give you a small example of what the planner could do. RIN, no, you're familiar with RIN, right? So Sattar Khan was the first one who said, see, as a planner, even before it goes to creative, I must tell them it's like all other detergents, right? What is my competitive unique value proposition, right? Those days we used to call it USP, unique selling proposition. Now it's evolved to unique value proposition. He would say that, I need to find something, it's blue color and its wash is the whitest. So he came up with this idea that it is lightning is the most white and it's got this dazzling effect on white clothes. So my signal of value, he called it signal of value. So my signal of value will be a lightning. And that is how he came to the creative. And every time you see the the RIN ad, you'll see that bang, and everybody would remember that mnemonic in the head. And it became an advertising device. So like that, there were smart things that Indian advertising further took it forward from the West.
So you made an interesting point here, actually. Do you think that most of it actually came from the West, or was it like India itself had its thoughts on building or creating a brand?
It's a good question because not many, but I'll tell you where we made the difference. We conceptually it was from there because they had evolved quite a bit in terms of the creative as well as in terms of the strategy, because they were also following what was the latest happening in psychology, for instance, right? So in fact, one guy called Vance Packard, he was talking about how we are doing subliminal advertising. You must have heard about it. He said in 24 frames when you see a film, in one frame if you introduce a Coke bottle, you won't know, it's not, I may not have registered, but your subliminal mind would have registered that. He accused us of doing that when we never did it. And we said, oh, we can do this also. We didn't know that. So advertising was growing. And of course, the consumer market was booming and people were buying. And therefore, they needed to build some loyalty towards brands. And therefore, they created a whole personality around it. And some people like J. Walter Thompson, who were the number one in those days, built it with brands like Lux. You know how big Lux is. But and with the classic, they were the classic middlemen. The Unilever was the classic middlemen. They'll take a soap, for instance, put a wrapper. The soap is not theirs. The tea is not theirs. It's all outsourced. You put a wrapper around it, a package, and then you give it a personality. And then you sell it. People thought, oh, this is a trustworthy thing. Yeah, it was not manipulation, but it was like I'm adding value so that you can trust it better and you can come back to me if there's any problem. So that seemed to work. So they did a lot of innovations within the how to build Indian brands for Indian people.
Interesting to know about how it used to be and the journey of brands. Okay, so shifting to slightly different topic here. When we meet a lot of clients, I try to understand the pain points in a much deeper manner before I suggest any marketing campaign or any solutioning for the brand. So I always suggest that you go for a brand audit. For me, let me put it what I refer as a brand audit. It's nothing but a 360 degree of evaluating a brand, right from the content, right from the tonality. We look at how websites perform these days. That's very important. When you talk about a brand, what kind of content you have, where you get your visitors. Are those the right kind of visitors for the brand? And we also try to include a little bit of competition mapping. And before I start an assignment on consulting, I try to give them a report which says, hey, these are the top 10 points where you are strong and that's working for you. And these are the areas where you need to get slightly better than what you are now. And it will summarize with very specific actionable items. So that's an approach which I take, before I start any engagement with a brand, on the consulting side. What are your thoughts on that? Do you, with your experience, do you think is there a smarter way to probably, because some clients might not have enough time to go through this exercise. So having that in mind, do you, your general comments on my approach plus something if you want to add on to it?
The first thing I'd like to say is that would be one of the best approaches because worldwide, I've read, not, we used to we were number one when we were in India, J. Walter Thompson, at that point when I was working there. Now it's kind of dispersed because digital and technology changed everything, right? It doesn't even exist as J. Walter Thompson. So the first thing we would ask, much later, there was a company called McGarry Bound, they bought over a company called Happy Creative Services. I was with them for some time, and it was a Dentsu company. McGarry, who was very well known in New York, they won the best agency of the year for consecutive years around 2015 to 16 and stuff like that. He would always say, he used to handle Citibank and did a lot of award-winning work. He said, the first thing I ask a client is, what are your pain points? He says they love to talk about it, but anywhere, when you want to set up a relationship, isn't that a wonderful thing to say that let the person talk and understand where they are at the moment? So that was absolutely fundamental. If somebody else is not doing it, I would say that's where they should start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's absolutely right spot, except that I'm just adding a little more. You asked me about where was advertising. I didn't tell you where it has reached now, right? So today it is, technology has come so far, we are using AI, not only AI models and tools like Gemini, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and using pay and using, which means it's much more rigorous. That means I'm using tokens and I'm loading, let's say, 1,000 ads to tell me what are your analysis of it. So we're using big data through AI. So analytics was used before, but not in the way AI is doing it now. Because you needed a lot of computational capability for analytics. So now it is like completely customer understanding of the customer, target audience, customer segmentation, market segmentation, everything is done by AI. And also the measurements, because it's digital age, has become much, much more, accurate. More accurate in how it's perceived. So those days, we used to talk about like a single-minded idea. Now, what we say about brand is, what is a brand? We say, we try to do some things, but the perception of the people, sometimes it may be slightly different. And that word cloud of meaning little bit separate things, but you're broadly in that area is what the brand stands for. And we should always do an audit to find that out.
Of course. So the whole point is digital has completely transformed the marketing communication landscape. From a tools perspective, from a advertising perspective, and apart from that, what do you think about, let's say, digital channels, for instance? Reaching out channels. Mostly the social media platforms and the Googles of the world are mostly trusted by people, as communication channels these days. So do you think that, where do you place this, if I need to kind of allocate my budgets towards digital platforms versus the traditional, is there any view on that?
No, there is. In India, the 77,000 crores, I think, goes, about 75,000 crores goes towards digital. The TV is struggling with about television, traditional
Sorry
media.
to interrupt. I think it is also important to probably understand a segment. Otherwise, it will be a little broad. For instance, a national brand.
Yeah.
A national...
No, I'm talking about overall spending in India, digital versus traditional media. It has come down drastically for the traditional media, is my point. It's about 50 and this is about 75 or 70. 70 to 75, this is about less than 50. Which shows that it's completely taken over. And very selectively, old brands, traditional brands, conventional brands are still using television and mass media, right? As a support rather than as a main. So what has happened, because media got fragmented, right? Which means I got into internet, completely changed the landscape. I am thinking like which medium, suppose you take Instagram, it's a young people's medium, right? TikTok, Instagram and stuff like that. It's not that older people don't watch it, but I'm getting my information from all sorts of places, right? Which means to target the customer, the moment you're looking there, he's already moved somewhere else, he or she, which is very, very difficult for us in the to tackle it in the traditional way. So the measurements have changed of how, for instance, that's why performance marketing came into the scene, which means I am looking at, suppose 4 times you've clicked on a Nike website, it's likely that you're going to buy the 5th time. Otherwise, you won't have spent so much time. So I will know that. I will not even know whether you're 90 years old or 19 years old. Those days we used to say, SEC 1, SEC 2, SEC 3, which township, and we used to profile them. That's completely gone out of the picture. It's only potential to buy. And so they were fairly successful. And the coming things, Amazon is using AI extensively. Myntra is using, Nykaa is using for the festival season. They're targeting, they're using influencers. They're also using AI to make it smoother for the customer to acquire what you want within one day, etc. So like it's advertising as a role has become very, very small, narrower, unless I redefine what is the word advertising.
So sticking to advertising again, since you are a primarily an advertising person.
Yes.
I'm sure you would have come across situations where we are giving certain solutions to a client, saying that, hey, this can be a great concept, this can be a great positioning of your brand. And in some cases, the customers might feel that with lesser advertising, I would say background or I'm sure customers comes with different skills.
Yes.
So I've seen people who are great on the product side, but they don't have much of a exposure to the advertising part of it. Absolutely. So when you come across such a client where he says, hey, do this, do that, being very seasoned, experienced advertising professional, how much do you kind of push the thoughts where we have conviction, or do you kind of leave it to the guy saying that, oh, ultimately it is his business? Why I am saying this is I've come across a lot of situations where clients will have a strong point of view that this is best for our brand.
Yeah.
And in some cases, we might not be in a situation to kind of agree to that point of view, just because what we have seen over the years.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So the best way to do it is what we said, if you're client-centered, which means that all clients, that's why they come to you, right? If I'm supposed to have the experience in marketing, sometimes we also have, MBAs on our side. We used to, when we were in J. Walter Thompson, we had people from Kellogg's, Cornell University, IIMs were flowing through, IIM, Ahmedabad and Cal. Bangalore was not that well known. So the client also had MBAs who were IIT IIMs. We also had IIT IIMs because advertising was, so that has gone past. Those days they'll trust you to say that, okay, so what was my only expertise? If that guy is also an IIT IIM and my advertising also is IIT IIM, client is IIT IIM, what's the difference? He also knows marketing, right? My only value that I was providing was I knew my customer better and I knew how to talk to my customer. That was the only additional value that we were providing in advertising, which means I knew segmentation, I knew how to talk with the tone of voice, I knew what the creative was to capture that person's advertising, I knew what story to tell. That was my only expertise. So therefore, very ethically, we'd always share, this is my background, this is my recommendation, but if you feel, I will go with you, and we try to hold hands with the client and say, you can see the results for yourself. If it goes wrong, no problem. But this is my suggestion. Okay? You can take it, but if you don't want to take it, no problem. I'll hold your hands. It's your money. I'm trying to give you better advice to how to utilize that better bang for the buck for that amount of money you're spending. Sometimes they resist and you leave it. And sometimes somebody has to learn the hard way.
Exactly. I think that's a very good conclusion on this topic, because our job as advertising marketing professionals is to give our perspective as clearly as possible.
Yeah.
And like you said, end of the day, it's the customer who finally
Absolutely.
decides. Yes. What are your thoughts on the evolution on customer behavior over the years?
It's a huge evolution. In fact, in the digital age, we are seeing it more and more. And I'll tell you from a completely different angle, because I come from a psychology background also, apart from I dabble in a few things. So what has happened with a guy called Daniel Kahneman, who was a Nobel laureate in 2002. He's from Princeton, basically, and a few others from Chicago, Thalwa, and a few other guys from Yale. There's one more good guy from Yale. They became behavior economics. That whole new subject came in. These were all psychologists, but you don't get a Nobel Prize for psychology. You'll only get it for economics. So they found that these guys' psychology theories on behavior theories were very useful for the economics. So how is behavior economics useful? They found psychology by itself can help you to some extent in advertising. It has helped in the past. Economics by itself can help you, but when you put the two together, it adds much more richness to how you profile and predict the behavior of the customer. So in that, neuroscience had a lot of contribution to that. Neuroscience in the past 15 years has grown like exponentially because of one simple reason, again technology. There's something called functional MRI, yeah, which is resonance imaging, So functional MRI made it possible, it became much cheaper. As you are doing your work, not be in a lab, I can put, sensors on you and see which part of the brain is being, there's a warm light, so that means that's being excited, and then predict that, wow, this portion is being, this part of the brain. So I could predict where that is coming from, what emotion it will lead to, and whether it is an analytical side, the creative side, or it is the emotional side. I could predict all these things. So, those days, another good example is we used to ladder the emotional and functional benefits. We thought that man is a rational being and therefore that completely that has been disproven. People make very, very emotional decisions, which is why the Simon Sinek's why, how, what makes more sense. That maps exactly the amygdala, which is the very reptilian brain, the limbic system, which is the emotions, the middle brain, and the prefrontal cortex, which is the analytical brain. And he says people essentially, first thing, if you want to really target your customer, aim for that primitive brain, which is love, rage, sex, food. It's got very, very basic, strong emotions. And anyway, we all know advertising uses only three things, which is love, fear, and rage. These are three aspects that if you see any ad, it will be rooted to any one of these ideas. So all this helped us in, understanding the consumer much better. So today we don't land emotionally. We use something called brand vibes. That means will my brand make me happy? Then brand sense, which is the logic and the rational part. And the last one is called brand resolution. Will it actually solve my problem? Okay. This again came from Daniel Kahneman. He said thinking fast, thinking slow. He wrote a famous book. We found that thinking fast is what we call heuristic, which means you cannot always logically reason, should I take this water or not? Is it clean or not? Is it this or that? You'll previous data you have in your mind. You'll just say, no, have that water. Same with impulse purchase. 95% of the time we are thinking in that first mode. Think fast. Then what is think slow? Think slow is when you take time, you reason it out. When the stakes are higher, you think a little bit slow, deliberate. We use analysis, etc. But only 5% of the time we think like that. So therefore you can see which one you take advantage of. So in these processes, brand, what I said, vibes comes more in the, if you're thinking so fast, what should I provide this guy for the brand? Because he's not thinking too much, right? And in the brand sense is when you add this second level thinking.
Very important insights about consumer behavior there actually. But when we look at the current trends, or when brands want to differentiate themselves from the competition, or for that matter want to see them differently, to the audience, people are more and more talking about being more socially conscious and making it more visible to the audience. They call it things like discovering the purpose once again, or rediscovery of the purpose. So I have two questions regarding this. Number one, how important is for a brand to be vocal about the purpose? That's my first question. My second question would be, do really the consumers care about the purpose of the brand if it is beyond that product? I've seen certain brands talking about purpose which is not directly connected to that product.
Give me an example of what you mean.
So, for example, I'm a financial services company. Okay, I have a purpose that the place in which I conduct my business. I need to eradicate, I don't want to say call eradicate poverty, but probably to help students to go to school in that area, which is not actually directly connected to that, my business.
Yeah.
But it's a social initiative. I've seen, large banks, multinational banks taking certain initiatives, even in such directions. And of course, a Pepsi or a Coke, having a vision or a desire to preserve water. That is something which is related to their business. Such kind of a purpose is something which is connected to the brand. So there are cases where in instances in which some of the purposes not very much related to that product. So I want your analysis on that. How important is to be very vocal about it? Even in some cases, even if the founder has a very strong purpose, he may not tell it loudly. I mean, not necessarily that I need to give interviews and I need to write about it.
Right, right.
I'm in business and I have my value systems within me.
Yeah.
I don't need to necessarily uh, make it a selling point. Even that can be a situation.
Yeah.
So I just want your thoughts, putting all these things together. How important is this purpose? How important is to talk about it? And how will consumers react to it?
Sure. It's an interesting question. See, firstly, any brand today, we know that for sure. Being authentic and genuine, there is no two ways about it. Because many generations now, right from the millennials, there is research showing that millennials cared for that if you cared for the environment as a brand. Let's say you're a clothing brand like Banana Republic from the US, New York area. And if you cared something, say my jeans like Levi's are made out of recycled plastic, they would value it. But they find that the Gen Z is doesn't care so much about it. Yeah, which means it's interesting, right? One set of new people are caring, the other set are not. We thought all young people would care because they started in environmental science and civic studies in school. That made a big change. You would have also heard your kids coming home and saying, no, you can't throw this paper here like this. It was never like that when we were young, right? They became conscious because they were educated on it. And then they had to care for something. They can't leave a pet or an animal on the road. They have much more. They're taught to be more empathetic, that these are not simple things. There are many things that could be taught, but this is taught. So that has influenced a whole set of things, and also global events, like where are we going, what are governments doing, what are we doing with the planet, for instance, climate change. They're finding it that overall it has been quite irresponsible the way politicians and economic forums have handled it. It has been purely for capitalistic, materialistic gain and just for commercial return, and not so much caring about the earth or its resources or its people for that matter. So when you're authentic and genuine, that is something all people care now. Okay, it's changed. Now you asked about purpose. The two meanings of purpose, right? When you say what's the purpose of the company, we define it. Let's say we are saying what's the vision, what's the mission, and what's the purpose. So Simon Sinek has this three-step process, like why do I exist? That's the purpose, right? So there are a few questions you can ask. What is my larger reason? Suppose what's Apple's purpose? Apple would say, and in fact he quotes Apple as an example. He says Apple's purpose is to make people's lives easier, because that's why I have a design of a computer that you can use, which is easy to use. It's not like complicated, things that I have to do on it. Also, it's well designed, and it helps you to design things easily in a better way. That is how Apple became the favorite of art directors around the world because it was design friendly. That's what they felt. But it was marketed very well. It was more expensive. Of course, nobody worried about the premium cost. So that became the purpose of this thing. That means I focused on giving you something which will ease your life, but it's of great quality. That I exist for that, to make your life better in that way. Then came the how. How do I do it? I have proprietary technology. I go to any length to include great typography. I give you this, and then what do you say? What do you have? You can pick up my phone or my computer, laptop or desktop. We have wide variety of things. So by the time in your brain, the emotional connect is, I trust this guy. This guy is genuine. He's really doing something for me. I don't care what I buy next is.
Okay.
You see how that staggering happens. The other purpose you're talking about is something like CSR, which means, let's say, energy companies. Energy companies will always say, wherever the village is where I'm developing hydroelectric power, or whether it is wind energy, or even solar, or any other type of mixed type of energy, green energy, you'll develop that whole community in that area. You'll have a program for women. That today is seen as, boss, it is your responsibility because the earth belongs also to them. Okay, that is not considered CSR anymore. That is like something you have to do type of thing.
Very true. In my point of view, also, it is not necessary that you need to do exactly in the same space. As long as you add value to the ecosystem where you belong to. Okay, now I'm taking up a different topic. Again, came out of my discussions with clients. I've come across clients who actually say that video marketing, very important. Video marketing is something which will get me a lot of mileage. And I have also heard people saying only small videos, small format videos will work, which is like, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And I've had a client asking me, can you make a 3 to 5 second viral video? 3 to 5 second viral video. It took me aback, such kind of questions sometimes. But my larger point is, I've often advised such clients, you shouldn't, only talk about a particular kind of video. What is important here is what will that particular kind of video do for your brand, which means you have a short format video, which might be just to grab the eyeballs. You might have an educative kind of video, which should be necessarily a slightly longer format, and an advertising kind of a thing, which drives a larger point about the brand. So my advice always to my clients, have been that, it is important to understand that what these different formats of video will do for your brand. So that's been my thought and my strong advice. So don't always say that, long format videos will not work. Nobody will watch long format videos. Do you have any comments and thoughts on that?
Sure. See, what I think most people are doing, youngsters do that all the time. If I'm on Instagram and I'm influenced by Reels, and if you can see that it is popular, right? Then you say, no, I must make my communication also small. They don't understand that there's a whole lot of things coming in that. There's a lot of entertainment coming. That entertainment can be that short. You must understand what is the message first. And it's like putting the cart before the horse. Before understanding what is the objective and what is my message, if I say, no, it should be determined in that 4 second is a reminder medium. At best, it will get you attention. It won't get you deeper awareness of the product. The long format typically gives you emotional value, film especially, video. It gives you, you can put so much emotion that, like the great Google film, which was about these two friends who were separated when they were young, no? It's a wonderful film. It follows all this cognitive branding that I spoke about, Wonderfully scripted. It's about 3.5 minutes long, okay? And Google didn't have to sell Google at all in that, okay? So, but the impact is so great, because the emotion was very high, it captured it. And that's what advertising people help to tell a story better, so that it is imprinted, that because of the emotion it's imprinted in the consumer, and they tend to remember you, right? 4-second video has got a purpose. Like I said, it's like the poster. Poster will have minimum information. It's a reminder medium. It's not the main medium. Print will have little bit, you can say. Brochure, you can say even more, no? So it depends on which, in the buying cycle, which phase the person is in, and which point are you attacking the communication to get the person. Based on that, you can determine what is the length or what should be the medium.
So basically, it is right to assume that one should not approach with a preconceived notion that longer format videos will not work. It depends upon your purpose, what is that you want to achieve with that. And it's very important to understand what each formats will do for your brand.
I'll give you an example of long format. BMW, I think it was, who hired 6 of the well-known filmmakers like guys like the guy who made Batman. No, I've forgotten his name. I think James Cameron was one of them. So they each made a film. It was about 3.5, 4 minutes long, and about 6 films was made. It went into million hits within about 30 days. Okay, um, and that's all. He didn't do any advertising at all because BMW was that level. That was his communication. It's a completely entertaining. It just had to have a BMW in the car. Nobody focused on his tires or the features and stuff like that. Okay. The other thing I want to tell you about is, have you seen Dove's social experiment films? Okay, social experiments again became very popular. Dove wanted to say that women perceive themselves, they're much harsher critics of how they look as opposed to what other people think. So they got a FBI profiler, which means he draws, a very experienced FBI profiler. That chap's got a screen. He's sitting not facing them. He asks them, how's your nose, how's your mouth, what do people say about your jaw, and he's drawing them. And then when that person is sitting outside with completely another person, for about 10 minutes they asked that person to ask a few questions. When then the other person comes in, they say, hey, you were sitting with somebody, what were the features of that lady? And they are much more kinder, and then they finally bring these people and show both these things, and they have tears in their eyes. Why am I so critic? This person looks so happy. This is the perception of other people. So they said, be kind to yourself. Phenomenal, and even Ariel saying that, run like a woman. So the boys all show that you run like that. Then they show how real women athletes run. There's no difference. And
Something which comes to my mind is it's very important to make somebody feel great. It's all about how you make people feel about themselves.
Yes, and if you associate it with the brand, that's the ideal thing.
yeah.
So that's what these people did. So it was not even an ad. So that's what I'm saying. It's that's all long format.
Yeah, exactly. Great. So now let's get into a little bit of digital. Okay. I've come across clients telling us, I want digital marketing. Okay. So as you know, digital marketing is a very large spectrum, and there are many things that you can achieve. And we need to have very realistic expectations on, what can you achieve with each of these activities. So probably I'm saying this for the audience, basically. A few things which I tell customers is that what is that you do for your leads? That performance marketing has to be very clearly demarcated. I've had a CFO, let me not name the company, who was saying that this expenditure will get me how many clients, which was a complete branding exercise. So I mean, there are very senior people also kind of little unclear about what to expect out of different kinds of digital initiatives. So for the benefit of our clients, I would say that it's extremely important to understand what you can get out of each of these activities. Performance marketing itself has, I would say, different layers. The kind of LinkedIn, for instance, it's a great. People feel that yes, you can handpick the person, which is true. If you compare with any other channels, LinkedIn is probably the only. LinkedIn is not paid us to say this, but let me be honest in telling that it helps you. But at the same time, it's the most expensive channel for somebody to tap a client or to connect with a client. Google is something which most of the people find their resort to because it's reasonably expensive. At the same time, you can do good profiling. You can push your content to the right people up to 70-80% accuracy, which I think is good for a lot of clients. We advise a lot of our clients to so put most of their advertising money on Google. And Meta is something which is quite visible in that sense. Your brand, if you're just doing a visibility campaign, probably Meta is a channel which we recommend a lot. And talking about, we already spoke about the video kind of content. Yes, it is also important to promote the content to make sure that whatever good work you've done in creating that content reaches the right audience. So we keep telling clients that otherwise it will look like you are singing a great song without audience. I mean, you've made a great content, it has to reach people. So sometimes we find it a little difficult to convince the management, saying that how important it is to put some money behind your content. Even if it is a simple organic content that you've created, to make sure that it reaches the right people. Overall, my view is that as agencies, it is very important for us to give them a. I mean, I don't underestimate the understanding skills of the business owners, but at the same time, as agency owners, or as advertising firms, our expertise and our experience in different industries, what we have learned, on things like, what can be the ROI, how fast you can judge a campaign is successful or not. So all of these things we need to really, educate our clients. So that has been my experience in having digital sessions or digital conversation with my clients. Do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I'm saying you painted a very realistic picture of whatever your experiences are. That is so true. Of course, there are people in the lower segment, middle segment, and the upper end.
Let me add just a couple of points also on the digital side now. People don't realize that we have quite a lot of ways to take our content out apart from your traditional, social media platforms. The content syndication has itself become a very important channel for future.
I see.
We use our own platforms mostly, but there are platforms out there which will help you not only push your content out, but at the same time to pick your right kind of customers and give it to you, by using your content. So I think large B2B companies should look at content syndication as one of their important channels for lead generation, and also I would say also for thought leadership. Because the kind of content goes out can create an impact in their ecosystem. Again, you mentioned SEO. I think, as all of us know, that SEO is drastically changing with the advent of AI. So we need to do basic understanding where AI is picking content from, and optimize for that. So that is, I think, one of the important areas where even Honeycomb is focusing at the moment. Why I'm saying this is, people who continue doing SEO in the older fashion might have some disappointments in the near future. So that's where Honeycomb as an organization, we have we're taking a lot of efforts in doing research and understand how AI based SEO functions. So probably, I think more and more organizations should start thinking how they can leverage AI in that sense, in terms of making their SEO
I
campaigns
think
better.
that it'll come with a cost because people like Google will always keep changing the algorithms.
Yeah. That
you
is,
know,
yeah.
and they'll know what you're doing. That's not a problem, except that you have to know how much importance to give SEO based on other things, as well as you mentioned something like B2B. You have to see whether you're a B2B guy, B2C guy, or today they call it P2P. It's just people to people. Why are you saying dividing between? But we know what we mean when we say. So, and the middle segment is what I'm talking about, where they're still not fully evolved into something like a big brand, but they're also having their own challenges and they're growing. They need an agency to fit that. And we fit that very well because our costs are very competitive. And what we offer is right on the money because the solutions really work for them. We've seen that over the years. And so we don't do so many high-flying things. We leave it for other people to do it. We don't have any problem with that. But the type of people we hire are all very grounded and we have a very good creative team. And therefore, we're able to do something little beyond the ordinary. So that, I think, is a great formula or let's say, if somebody asked me how do I evaluate an agency, these were some of the ways that...
That was precisely my next question. Yeah, I wanted to ask that because when you are at a company side, we keep having these discussions. Okay, there are hundreds of agencies to choose from. Who do I go to? So yeah, please continue. How do I evaluate?
So
an agency?
let me get into the avatar of a client. Yeah, if I'm running a business, obviously the first thing that I'd look for is a person who I can partner with, which means will he listen to me? Is he listening to my problem? my pain points. That's the first thing. That means you need to be client-centered. If you are the agency, you need to be client-centered. You need to hold my hand. Do not know much about digital, but I know about IT and I know about my products. And I call it marketing. I may not do anything close to marketing. It's actually sales. Yeah, I may not understand. No problem. I told you, nobody understands everything. And I may have been successful without doing that. You can be. I'm not saying no, you need advertising for everything. No, not at all. But there will come a time in your growth, in your evolution, where you have a requirement. And that's the time we step in. We don't step in before or after. We let the client go, and be successful by themselves. They don't need us all the time. But when we do need us, first thing I look for is the compatibility. Second thing I look for is what is the quality of the work. Can this person, does they have the experience and the expertise and competence to deliver what I want?
When you say experience, is it important to have experience in the same domain or the same industry? How relevant is that?
See, it would be ideal if you're in marketing communications. I would expect experience in that, no, not something else, right? I'm coming to you for that. Brand and marketing communications, what I'm coming to.
I mean, the industry. For example, if I've done a lot of work for healthcare, and done great work for healthcare.
No. You can be industry agnostic,
Okay.
which means you can't, as a client, I can't say, boss, you've done a lot of great advertising, but have you worked on a needle brand? You'll say, sorry, sir, I didn't. But you mean you can't do needles? Of course you can do
But
needles.
a lot of clients ask that question.
They
right?
do,
Yeah.
because they don't understand that. See, what they're thinking is, I don't have too much money, middle segment. It'll be good if you had handled another needle brand. They're just looking for it. But they don't know that is also like looking for a needle in a haystack. How can everybody handle every type of business, no? But they try their luck. They'll come and handle. So what they need to understand is that I understand marketing and brand communication. I understand what is brand, what is marketing, and what component of part advertising plays in that marketing. What's the role? Okay, because one part of marketing, right? Advertising is not the full. But since I understand marketing, I'll also know segmentation, pricing. I'll have a view on all those things because I also understand marketing. So we help the client with these things. So therefore, that is the second part of the evaluation, right? Which is how much of experience and expertise you have. When I say experience, people today look for a mix of youthfulness as well as some people who can carry the brand forward with experience.
Great. So when I really try to evaluate what you have said just now, I've been successful in convincing clients in most of these aspects, except for when I say that this is advertising is very industry agnostic. A lot of clients say that no, I need expertise. Forget advertising. Even when you recruit a person at a senior level or mid level, a lot of companies look for expertise and experience in the very same domain. So that's something which probably, I've even in interviews, I am someone who have changed industries. I've worked in technology, I worked in financial services, I've worked in gaming. So one of the questions which some of the owners ask me is, you have been working in IT companies. How will I, take you for a financial services marketing role? So I had to kind of explain the basics of marketing and how marketing B2B or marketing B2C is industry agnostic, because as long as you can know how to connect with the customer at a B2C level, I can sell any product. It's not much of a, but yes, that's been the biggest challenge when I talk to customers and approach somebody who we have not serviced before in the same industry. Yeah, maybe this might change, or it might need a little bit of effort from
No,
from the
it is a
agency side.
genuine concern because, see, if the client is very holding hard, tight on the fact that, no, I need that domain, he may end up losing because you never know that a person who has general experience of marketing communication can probably handle it and handle it very well. But that opportunity is lost for the client because he's looking for this needle in the haystack, which is, only person. And that person, when he finds them, may not do a good job. There's always a chance, right? Because if he's not found in the average, landscape where you're looking for these people, and that person is hidden somewhere, but he has done that work on that particular domain, there are good chances that he may not be a great advertising and marketing person for this fit for this person, right? So clients can get lucky, maybe they find that person, but the chances are very remote. It's much more difficult. They make life more difficult for them.
I agree with you.
But the best thing I would suggest is, in such a case, sometimes clients ask for a pitch. Sometimes we don't are not too fond of it. The best way to find out in the digital age, because you don't do massive, ads that you cannot change. Digital, you can change it every day, right? You do an assignment. You say, give me a 90-day, 3-month assignment, and I will prove to you.
Free of cost?
Yeah.
Free of
Not
cost?
free of cost at all. He pays, but he pays with a 15% discount because he's on the trial period. Later on, we not only prove ourselves, we cover that 15% gap which has been compensated, because this is his way of trialing. That for us, it's a foot in the door. For him, it's a very genuine way of experimenting, because he's getting genuine stuff to find out if this person is worth it, because then only I can go long term, which is fair enough.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
That's a good
So it's a
suggestion.
90-day period where it's just enough time, both sides, to check each other out.
Okay. So let me ask a very little broad question. Where do you see marketing going? Probably, let's say, what would be the important trends that will stay for the next 10 years? Because everybody is forward looking, We know we've discussed a little bit of how it has evolved over the years and where it is now. So in the next 10 years, what are the trends that you foresee, staying?
I can't really say. I'm not great at predicting, but the way things are going, just by common sense observations around you, in fact, we know that AI is evolving much faster than the human mind is evolving, right? And that's a danger. And that's why we're getting into all kinds of health-related, mental-related issues with our children and stuff like that. Attention deficit disorders to autism. These were unheard of those days. So a lot of people have these issues and stress, of course, which means depression and clinical depression, etc. These are all also outcomes of this type of society we live in, which has become much, much more hectic. And we are in social media's biggest critique was that nowadays we have in what we call DSM-9. It's a statistical manual for counselors and psychiatrists. Internet addiction comes as one of those things. So adults as well as children. So we know it's a genuine problem, and there are thousands who are in that. Those days we thought addiction is only to do with alcohol and drugs. You can be addicted to work, addicted to shopping, addicted to gaming, addicted to the internet, addicted to anything. You could be a workaholic, right? So it's just the construction of the brain, that dopamine hit. So now social media provides that dopamine hit on every day. As you keep doing this on reels, or if you keep swiping, it gives you that hit. And there's a huge critique of that worldwide. People like philosophers, like people like Yuval Noah Harari, the cognoscenti of the world. They are getting together to say that please regulate this a little bit more so that our future generation. So in that sense, because AI is evolving so fast, it will be highly precise. It will target the things. So marketing is completely gone out of the advertising, people's traditional advertising realm. It's become completely a technology-oriented targeting.
So can I call it hyper targeting?
Yeah, it is. See, you're familiar with hyper-local. That itself is, it will be hyper-targeting. It will be like, because I'll know your behavior by the movement of your eyes, right? I can make out. So if I have sensors and things everywhere, which is where we are heading, they'll say it's for safety. But the government watches you, everybody watches you. If the data is sold, I'll know exactly what your intention is. Whether even sometimes when suppose you're looking at something, your pupils dilate. I'm just saying it's not there at the moment. If your pupils dilate, that means that guy knows you like the product and your intention is to buy. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
It may not be, it may come true, but so those kind of things will completely take.
Yeah,
over.
true. Actually, even when you look at consumer behavior now,
Yeah.
you can really get the sense of it. For instance, if I get an advertisement, or if I get to see a product displayed on my device,
Yeah.
which is not relevant to me,
Yeah.
I get upset. It was not like that 10 years ago. I was more patient in seeing an ad which is not relevant to me.
Right.
If something is not relevant, people don't have that patience to kind of look at it.
Yeah.
So that gives a very clear indication that it has to be, hyper targeted. So that's something which I also foresee. The second thing I think is, your multi-channel communication still stands very valid. I can see that growing. Every single brand is looking at omni-channel marketing.
You can't run away from that because that, like I said, it depends on your people. Unless
Okay.
your segment is so sharply in one type of medium, you were talking about. I see it going in the same direction that it's you'll have to use multi channels. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that?
Yeah, so multi-channel, for instance, like you have also mentioned about it. Today, when I see an ad in a particular place, I mean, that's not the end of it. The brand has to understand my buying behavior, understand me as a potential customer for that, and place the ad correctly in, three or four different places. It can be on my social platforms. It can be even a exclusive display for me, knowing that yes, I am there at that time.
Sure.
So using that multi-channel, omni-channel, if I can call it so,
Yeah.
is something which I am seeing more and more brands embracing.
Yeah.
Probably that is going to be one of the strong. I can even name a couple of brands. There's nothing wrong in that. Redbus, they are extremely smart in that. I think the founders are a couple of IM guys. So when you search for a, let's say, Bangalore to Cochin, if I search for a ticket, they will show their ad in 5 different places for me and make me buy that. I mean, probably one brand which I've seen so aggressive in omni-channel marketing and remarketing. They will identify that I'm looking for it, and
Yeah.
they market to me in so beautifully. I haven't seen many brands doing that. This is only in the digital space, but I think it has to be a combination of digital and traditional channels.
Yeah.
So yes, so the omni-channel marketing is here to stay. Hyper targeting, and sending only what is relevant to that person
Yeah.
is here to stay. Third, I would say the segmentation is going to be lot more precise with the use of AI, and yeah, content creation. Content creation. See, again, it's a little. My view on AI is also, people might not agree to what I'm saying, is slightly changing. I mean, my view on AI. Earlier, when the Chat GPT came, my thought was, oh, very easy to create content. But today, ChatGPT is not my most preferred form of content creation. At the most, I create my content and put it on ChatGPT and ask for fine tuning.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much can you entirely depend on ChatGPT for a content.
See, there are many platforms now, no, not platforms, let's say tools. For writers, there are at least 5, not just ChatGPT, where it can fine tune. One basic things like grammar to rewriting it properly, making shorter sentences, or this is the style that I want in, etc., etc. It does. But I agree with you. It's AI is still not there. But it doesn't need 5 different people in my agency to be employed. Okay, I need one guy who knows how to give correct prompts and needs to know the basic thing first to feed it in, and then do the corrections. We still need that
I
intervention.
agree to that point, but my larger issue here is
Yeah.
when I put a prompt,
Yeah.
or when I write an entire article and put it for correction or evaluation, whatever.
Right.
The context is getting changed.
Oh,
in
that,
some
that,
cases.
that means yeah, it's not there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but it won't be long. Is my my
yeah,
worry.
yeah.
I don't want that to be so
Yeah.
because it's taking away even in music, for instance, no, the human ingenuity, the warmth and the thought, that spontaneity, the creative aspect. If that is taken away, then there's nothing left. But that's the consolation for us. They said it can never do that kind of creative thing. It can imitate another creative thing, but it cannot come up with it in the first place because your mind is so many different wiring
Yeah.
that that's why if you spend your time doing routine work, they always say that, no, let the bots do the routine work. You do creative stuff. You do things which are empathy oriented. You spend time with children and with people and relationships, and you build creative things.
I
from
think
there.
your point, let bots do the routine thing.
Yeah.
I think that is where probably where today, which is something which you can depend on.
Yeah.
Even if one or two elements of what you want to communicate gets a little distorted, I'm not okay with that. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, so very specifically to know your views about one of the services provided by Honeycomb.
Right.
You know, Honeycomb is providing creative staff to support larger organizations based out of their office.
Right.
And I have heard that some of the big brands serviced by Honeycomb in this model is working quite well. And when I first heard about it, I thought it's a great concept. And I just would like to know from you, since you have been a part of Honeycomb for longer time, in understanding how this particular concept, which we call Hive, is working. Can you just elaborate a little bit so that our audience can understand it better?
Sure. It's something I'd like to call global creative support team, right? Because it's studio support, it's basically. So what we were doing was basically any type of maintenance work that the client might have, Coke might have, Titan might have, Infosys might have, which is in the what they traditionally have a Marcom department. They used to hire Marcom people, but what happens in places like Infosys, they get only Infosys work. So there's no growth for the person with different exposure to different brands and different types of creative. So they kind of stagnate. So after about 2 years, they want to give up, and they even take up jobs for a lesser amount of money, because they lure them with a little extra money than from the industry, which is the media industry I'm talking about. So that model didn't work for them. But they still need those people, because they want people within the office, so that because they're carrying about 1 lakh people, 30,000 people each office, right? Infosys, Titan. They want people to immediately be accessible so that they can complete the simple stuff, which means an adaptation, a maintenance, a simple creative, create a small logo, a small packaging, maybe a short film. So we have been providing people to Infosys for almost 13 years now, as well as to Titan, which are big brands, as you know. A studio team, which means it includes writers and art and designers, these two predominantly, who sit at the client's premises, because then they have access to these things, and they also get used to, in a week they'll know what the client wants, what's the type of thing. Then you learn about keeping to the brand identity, what are the things to keep in mind in terms of brand synergy, etc. So they learn all that, and we give them separate training also. And we recruit the people. We take the whole headache of, you don't have to give promotion, you recruit new people, have interviews. We've taken away the whole headache. So the client gives us a fee, and we say, we'll run this team, and if you have any problems, tell me. I'll replace the people, or I'll retrain them and bring them back. But I'll try to maintain the quality, that is the delivery that I've promised. So that model has been working very well for clients like Tanishq and Infosys, right? I only see that growing, because otherwise what is US and Canada and Australia doing? They're outsourcing that whole thing to places like Vietnam, Philippines and India. And India, because we speak English better. So those countries predominantly have English. So we become a default great partner for that. And these are not like the main campaigns, but maintenance work. But it's a huge business opportunity, because just like in the call center and the knowledge centers, I mean, as we call them, we didn't exploit this part too much. But I think there is a huge need for a client. You can ask any client who's big and says, you want your own department, I'll run, you just have to tell me, I'll run the whole department for you. You just pay me a
To
fee.
make it easier for our clients, what would be the top 3 advantages which they get if they go for this option?
Like I said, see, what's my headache? I have to, first of all, hire these type of people. I do not know how to hire art people and copywriters. I don't have the bandwidth. I am in IT industry. How will I know who to hire, who will interview them? I don't have the experience of an ad agency, So that is the first thing. Then I have to promise them a certain growth. Who's senior, who's thing, they are all on the same level. Their learning gets highly compressed, because you're 2 years, you're doing the same thing again and again, right? So I take on that headache, which means as a company.
So this is more human resources related,
Resources.
the hiring and training and everything.
Yeah. So those are issues. Then if the person leaves, promotion, attrition, all that I take care of. Third is, I am telling, instead of you going to an agency, you have a guy sitting there who has the same resource, which means I want something done
So I
fast.
have a question to be more clearer to our audience.
Yes.
Let's say in morning 9 o'clock, I get a call from one of the employees who we have sent to a company saying that I'll not be able to come to office today for so and so reason. So the same day we will replace.
Not the same day, but I will definitely use the agency's resources to provide that creative.
Okay.
As a kind of stopgap
Back-end
arrangement,
support, yeah.
right? So, if it's over a longer period of time, I will make other arrangements. But we have an understanding the client. Client also knows I cannot immediately replace, but definitely that work will not suffer because I have enough backup.
No, backup team.
Yeah, like a bench to fulfill that.
Support that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
So they really don't lose anything. And he says, yeah, I'll just pay a fees. I take away all the headaches. But I deliver exactly what you want because that's what you want. I want somebody 24 hours in the office, not that they work 24 hours. Say that, hey, just correct this, change this. There's so many things to be done in an office with 10,000 people, no? And the Marcom departments can be huge, right? And that's why I'm saying we're trying to add even video because that type of thing is a thing. And this is a model that we've been doing for 12 years. So we know Pat. And the only, we have not spoken
So
to
this
clients.
model has been happening for the last 12 years.
Yes, yes.
So
more than
which
12
means
years.
that it would have made Honeycomb an expert in this kind of services,
Precisely,
right? Yeah,
precisely.
great.
Because, and there are not too much competition in this, no? Because who wants to run this thing? It's in the lower end.
Okay.
And not many people have the know-how of how to run this, which means handling people, handling talent. It's a little bit of a different game. Nobody has the patience for that. So our founders have been, Naufal has been very, very good in handling that over the years. He's made it like a kind of template that is one of the most successful, I would say, in the market because you have freelancers, Elance, so none of that really worked. That's why they all went out of fashion and completely wound up. But the only thing that I feel is that other people don't know that you're offering this type of service,
okay.
especially to slightly bigger clients.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say slightly bigger clients, do you have any particular industry or a segment where you think this service will fit in really well?
I think for people who have a big load on deliverables internally and externally, Tanishq is one of those things. So that's why Titan uses a lot of our people. Infosys, although they're completely different domain, they have a lot of load, sending papers, PPTs, this and that. And they have to provide for that, on a daily basis.
Okay.
In lot of internal communication, white papers just to design, PDFs to be done. So all these type of daily work which any industry will have. Very few may not have. So I'm saying that there's more who need it. We even provide 2 or 3 people. Suppose you need only 3 people, we'll provide 3 people. We've handled Carrot Lane out of Bombay. So they needed only a few people in the beginning so they could have a trial like that.
So Nas, I think this is a great service that I think Honeycomb can put forward, which will be a lot of use to the organizations out there. And I think this was a great conversation. And I'm sure that your valuable time will be of use to people out there. Thanks for coming and
Thank
having
you.
this
Thank you
discussion.
very much for the privilege, and it was wonderful talking to you. And thanks for asking questions that I probably knew the answer to.
Thank you.